Who is going to win the Premier League next season? And what do they have to do to get there? We've got a lot to get through on today's show, and we've got the men to do it. JJ Bull and Alex Barker. All right, Alex, let's start with Manchester City. It's still unknown as to whether or not Pep Guardiola is going to be there next season, but we've reported that Enzo Maresca might be one of those people to take over if he does leave. Now, my question is, with this squad, can they still contend for the Premier League with a new manager at the helm next season?
Well, let's just take a step back for a second. Pep Guardiola could be leaving Manchester City this summer, and it's worth talking about that because he could be leaving their squad in a very different place to the squads he left at Barcelona and Bayern Munich. In front of me, I have Barcelona's squad the season after Pep Guardiola left, the 2012-2013 season, and highlighted are the players that were also in the most used starting 11 for Barcelona in Guardiola's first season at the club. So it goes to show when Guardiola left, he left basically a peak Guardiola team, a pretty nice team to inherit for the next manager. The same goes for Bayern Munich as well. This is the team, the most used starting 11 under Carlo Ancelotti, the season after Guardiola took over again, and highlighted are the players that were in the most used starting 11 in his first season. And there are other players as well, like Robert Lewandowski and Juan Bernat, who arrived only a year into Guardiola's reign. And we've covered recently on The Athletic the long-lasting impact Guardiola had on this team. This squad really absorbed his methods and became a Guardiola team. However, the same cannot be said for Manchester City. This is next season's squad for Manchester City, and the only player here who's been managed by Guardiola throughout his entire tenure is Phil Foden. But even putting him to one side for a second, there are 10 players here who've been at City for less than 2 seasons, from the likes of Reinders and Marmoush to even Donnarumma, Kuchinov. But it's not just that some of these players haven't had enough time to absorb Guardiola's methods, but over the last 2 seasons, City haven't actually been playing much of the Guardiola way. They've been struggling to do so. There's no position that shows what I'm talking about clearer than the goalkeeping position. Obviously, last season and before that, City had Ederson in goal, one of the best ball-playing goalkeepers of recent memory. In the summer, they traded Ederson for Gianluigi Donnarumma, a completely different goalkeeper, as we know, someone who's not comfortable building out from the back, and that made a large impact to the way City played. Last season, they completed the second most passes back to their goalkeeper. This season, they're only completing the 12th most in the Premier League. And goalkeeper isn't the only position where City is sacrificing some control, because at centre-back, City have recently been playing with Marc Guéhi and Abdulkadir Kuchinov, and these are 2 players who aren't quite in the Guardiola mould, I think. They like to take risks and play at quite a high tempo in the centre-back position. A game that shows what I'm talking about well is City's 3-3 draw against Everton. This is the first example I have. It's in the second half. Guéhi is on the right-hand side of the screen, and he's going to receive the ball from Ray and Cherki and play a quick 1-2 with Nico O'Reilly. And he ends up getting the ball into this position near Everton's penalty box. Now, I think ideally Guardiola would like Guéhi to play the ball to Doku and retreat back into position. This should allow City to maintain control in Everton's half and squeeze them back. But Guéhi is actually going to take a risk. He's going to carry the ball forward into this space and take these Everton defenders on. Now, he does somewhat panic when he gets to this position, and he's going to play a blind cross into the box for Bernardo Silva. He's quite lucky it does find him, but even then, Silva receives the ball, he lays it off to Cherki, and Cherki cuts inside and still ends up losing the ball. And Everton launch a counter-attack. And as the ball comes forward, it reaches Iliman Ndiaye, and he can play the ball straight to Tieno Barry into the gap where Guéhi should be. And the result of this attack is Everton get forward and get a shot off just on the edge of the box. It's a warning sign of what's to come. Because the next example I've got is after Everton have equalised thanks to Guéhi's error, and a long ball's been played forward to Kuchinov. Now, Kuchinov's going to bring it down, and I think there's a couple of options available to him here. He could play a pass to Bernardo Silva. He could play the ball back to Donnarumma, but as we've seen, City don't like playing the ball back to Donnarumma at the moment. So Kuchinov, again, I think he's someone who likes to carry the ball out of danger. He likes to take risks. So he brings the ball down and he tries to carry his way out of this situation. He loses the ball, Everton win it back and race into the box through Ndiaye, and Guéhi has to come across and concede a corner. This leads to Everton's second goal. They go 2-1 up. And talking of goals, we've got the third Everton goal in this next example. It's Guéhi on the ball again, he's on the left side of defence, and Tieno Barry's going to press him, and Guéhi carries the ball past him. He then plays the ball to Jeremy Doku, And like before, Guardiola would ideally want Guéhi to retreat back into his position. Yes, City are 2-1 down, but this would be the sensible thing to do. Guéhi instead wants to take the risk. There's an opportunity to make a run beyond Doku into this space, so he makes the run. but this backfires again. Doku receives the ball, but he ends up conceding a throw into Jake O'Brien. We're at a different camera angle now, unfortunately. But you'll see when the ball goes out for a throw and O'Brien starts the run up to take it, you can see Gay in the background here, out of position. The throw gets taken and the ball ends up in the position where, again, the centre-back should be. Everton come forward and end up creating the third goal. So obviously Gay and Kusanov didn't have a particularly good game, but I still think this shows how these guys like to take risks and don't quite fit in the slower, patient approach that we've seen under Guardiola. And they're not the only ones. I've categorised City's squad here quite subjectively into 3 categories: fast tempo, slow tempo, and mixed. As I said, it's subjective, but I think the point stands. We've got Kusanov and Gay, Donnarumma, 3 players we've covered who like to play a bit more directly, take risks, play at a faster tempo. But you also have the likes of Semenyo, Marmoush and Haaland, players who we've covered this season who like to attack space in behind. I don't think they're quite as well suited to playing against a low block. But on the other hand, we have some players who prefer playing at a slower tempo. Rico Lewis, I think, on the defensive end symbolises this best. He's the archetypal Pep Guardiola player, a small technical fullback who just can't survive in the Premier League at the moment. It's too physical and fast for him, so he's not playing as much. But you also have attackers as well, like Ryan Cherki and Jeremy Doku. Now, I'm not saying these guys can't play in a counter-attacking team, but I just think they are best against a low block because they've got that magic dribble or pass in them to unlock that low block. They're best when they're controlling the tempo, not racing up and down the field. So the squad is in a state of transition here, and this is a good time to bring it back to Enzo Maresca right at the start, because I think you're right, there's an assumption that he's going to be this continuity candidate. He'll come in and keep doing Guardiola things and they'll look the exact same. I just think that's nonsense. Yes, Maresca is known for this slow, patient, possession-based approach, but we saw it wasn't working all the time at Chelsea. They were dropping points to the likes of Bournemouth and Leeds. They were struggling to control games. And City have been struggling to control games as well. It's why last season they had such a bad year, and this season they've started to move away from that approach.
The bigger question is, I mean, to the naked eye, this still looks like a stacked team. Can this team next season win the Premier League?
I think over the last season, we've seen Guardiola walking a tightrope of finding balance between these slower tempo players and these faster tempo players. Maybe Maresca comes in and tries to do the same, or maybe he swings heavily to one of these 2 directions and suits the slower players or suits the faster players. I just think it's quite a difficult balance to strike. So I'm not super confident that City are best placed to win the Premier League title. I just don't think they're favourites going into next season based on the state of transition their squad is in.
Okay, well, let's move to Arsenal, Manchester City's current title race rivals. We're not sure yet whether or not Arsenal are going to win the league this season, but you'd like to think, based on the continuity of Mikel Arteta, they're in a better state as a squad and cohesion than perhaps Manchester City. So next season, is it more about the smaller tweaks as opposed to bigger changes?
What I'm hearing you ask me is, how do Arsenal win the league next season?
Basically, yeah.
I'm going to do some blue sky thinking, much like Mikel Arteta.
Oh, wow.
And the best way to do it, I think, is by, like any good business analyst, doing a SWOT analysis of how to improve Arsenal.
Okay, mate.
Here we go. A SWOT analysis obviously is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. You need to work out what the threats are to stopping them being even better next season, what the strengths are, where the opportunities are is very important, because the strengths are obviously the incredible out of possession, probably the best defensive team I can remember seeing maybe ever. They're just so good at it. They have great individual players. They are set piece masters. And they have complete control in every phase of play. This is the thing that Arteta's got. Every single bit he has control of. He's done that very well. The weaknesses are scoring and open play. We've sort of seen that, right? Injuries to key players, which is mostly the result of an overworked squad, so that they're kind of side by side. And they can be quite boring, which is, I think, linked to not scoring an open play, right?
Yeah, I can attest
But also,
to that.
in terms of controlling every single phase of play, there are opportunities. So they can stay a step ahead of their rivals now because they've set what the meta is. They've basically broken football by doing what they've done. So they can stay a step ahead by then just adjusting a few different bits and pieces. They can maintain their dominance over everyone in the league, because as we've seen, Man City are in a bit of maybe in a state of transition. Who's going to be the rivals? They can move ahead, maintain the dominance, and they can add and adapt to their existing strategy. They can do what they want. It already works. But there are threats. Other teams may improve.
Oof. And there's a likelihood of that, actually.
Well, yes. There's a threat of a psychological or physical drop-off after a World Cup year. Also, just when you win something, sometimes that affects players. That happens quite a lot. Set pieces could stop working.
Yes.
A real threat. And of course, the most serious of all, a skeleton army could rise from the ground to conquer the
I
planet.
mean, that's the most impending doom right now.
The most important one is the opportunities, and we're going to focus on that.
Okay, do it.
So I think we can look at what Arsenal have done very well, because this works. It's a winning team. In terms of how important set pieces are to them, only 3 teams rely on set pieces more for their goals. So Arsenal have the 4th most percentage of goals that are from set pieces. But what's really interesting to me is that 15 of their opening goals have been from set pieces. So when it's really tight and it's all slow and quite dull and nothing's happening, you need a set piece to open it up. 15 times. Sounds quite a lot, doesn't it?
Isn't it?
Well, guess what? It's the most ever of any team in the Premier League.
Ever?
Yes.
In history?
Yes, in the
Insane.
Premier League.
Wow.
21 of their goals changed the game state from set pieces, so either equalising or taking the lead. This is what they've done. But even the kind of open play goals are like set pieces. If you look at goals they score, here's one against Atletico Madrid from the first leg, where Saliba plays this lovely ball forward into Gyökeres, who gets in behind. That's what he's meant to do, run the channels. They finally figured out a way to do this with him. Then they get in, then Gyökeres crosses it into the back, and then Trossard takes it down, shoots, and Saka ends up finishing from really close range. But what's interesting to me is that this is what Arsenal often look like in these situations. It's not uncommon for other teams to have it, but they keep doing this where they just squeeze them in. It makes everything a little bit like a set piece. So this is a goal against Fulham that they scored, where Saka takes on the full-back, he turns him inside out, it's lovely, he crosses it in, but you see the same squeezing that they do. And what's interesting about this is that it's an open play goal, but guess where it started? Set piece. Only a few seconds beforehand. What do they do next season? Like, how do they change this open play thing? Is it a change in tactics or is it individual players? And I was thinking, well, do you know who's really fun to watch? PSG.
Oh, they are so beautiful to watch.
Yeah. So Kvaratskhelia, he takes a little drop just to try and put Stanisic so he's dead straight. And then when the ball comes over the top, he's in behind and he's fast. He's so quick. But then it comes down to, so that's just speed, a bit of clever movement off ball, a little bit of coaching and tactical stuff to get him there. Then he gets to the box and then it's just pure individual talent, pace, skill, like vision. Dribbles past him, cuts inside, you can't stop it, he shoots, he scores, right? So this is the thing. So individual players can do this, but players like Kvaratskhelia don't really exist. They do in PSG and like Real Madrid.
Know, but he's a unicorn of a player. Isn't
Yeah, like Elise at Bayern Munich, right? So maybe they had a player like that. They've got Saka can do it now and again. But the problem is not even like the individual players, because what happens with Arsenal is that the way they build is so slow and patient and controlled that the time they get to the final third, you don't really have players who can do this. They don't really arrive in these situations. Maybe what they could do is change the way they're using the players they already have.
Okay, good shout. And yeah, it has been said Mikel Arteta probably needs to do that. Take the handbrake off, they say.
Maybe, but then I don't know if he'll do that, is the thing. So like, I think what you'll probably see is that he'll need to find ways just to adapt it slightly. But he's already started.
Yes, he has, and I'm hoping you're going to show us.
Well, I think you're going to reference Miles Skelly. Is it Miles Lewis Skelly?
Miles Lewis Skelly.
Miles Lewis Skelly.
MLS.
And I'll get his name right every single time. Lewis Miles Skelly. Now, Declan Rice, you've seen him quite a lot recently in the last few games, dropping in between the centre-backs. So kind of what he did at West Ham an awful lot, you know? And then you have him playing as the deepest midfielder, deepest player, actually, against Atletico Madrid in the first leg. And it makes sense to me to put Rice in this sort of situation because obviously Rice is amazing. He's not as good in tight spaces at turning on the half-turn and stuff like that. That's something better that Miles Lewis Skelly.
There we go, you got it, MLS.
That's what he's much better at doing. MLS, that's a good way to remember
It's
it.
the easiest way. I do
you.
the same thing all the time.
So that's what you do, right? So you have Rice can face forward and see the game in front of him. A lot easier to do. That's your mindset. And then you get other players who are a bit nippier, can turn around. So that's what you get with Declan Rice now. But also, they're using him to drag the opponents out of position because people know where he would be. They're not sure where they're going to be. So what they've started doing is just doing little things to totally break apart the opposition press. Because if you can get past the press and you can get in the opposition half quicker, then you might be able to use your individual talents and have more fun, more open play chances. So here you see them. You can see what's going on here, right? You've got centre back. I think that's Gabriel over there. Where my pen is. Rice is next to the goalkeeper. You've got Saliba as the right-sided centre back.
Yes.
They've moved this all around, and Lewis Skelly is just right in the middle here. So what then happens is this forward here, Alvarez doesn't really know where to go. They've anticipated trying to press them in like a diamond shape, so they've got the 2 forwards and a 10 behind, so they can try and press and screen the dropping midfielder, you know. But now he's got 2 players. Who does he go to? If the winger jumps up, then that's going to leave this player free because he's got other people to deal with. It's very clever.
It is super smart.
Really disrupted it. And so they've created this opportunity here. Saliba and I think it's Trossard drop in
Trossard does
to the
drop in.
same space so that they both know where the space is. Raya doesn't play it. He instead goes to Lewis Skelly. They've been fooled, so then they all move up to this. He drags the press apart again, goes back to Raya, and Saliba's moved in position to receive. So Saliba gets it, turns, and he can break. But the problem is, no matter how you get through the press with Arsenal, what eventually happens is you end up facing this kind of thing every single time. But this is what happens, is that they keep having this. So that's kind of the issue, right? Is like they build up in certain ways because they're controlled, they get to the final third because they're controlled, and they can generate chances from set pieces because they're controlled. And it is reliable, we know it works. So I think the changes you'll see next season will be more ways of breaking up opposition presses so they can try and play through. But I think the transfer market will be where they're trying to look for someone who can do something a bit more magical, if that player exists.
Do you reckon that would be up front or in the midfield?
It's probably going to be in the wide area. Someone like Julian Alvarez that they're linked with quite a lot. I think he'd actually make quite a lot of difference. But then you've got Havertz is coming back. You've got Lewis Skelly getting to midfield now. You're going to have other players that are here. Max Dowman's there.
Yeah, Dowman, yeah, of course. Basically, Mikel Arteta needs to learn to use his players differently.
Yeah, so like Arsenal are probably going to be favourites next year again, and they can do the same exact thing because it's very unlikely that set pieces will stop working because we know they work repeatedly because football is now broken.
I feel inspired, actually.
That's good.
Thank you very
much. That was
much.
my intent.
Right, we need to move on because beyond those two teams, I think it's really hard to make sense of any other teams at this moment in time in the Premier League sort of challenging for the next season. But let's focus on Liverpool because at the time of recording this, they are still Premier League champions. But it feels a little tricky because I'm wondering how they find the consistency they had last season moving into next season again.
Yeah, I think Liverpool had so many issues this season that have held them back, but I think a large proportion of them go back to last summer's recruitment and Arne Slot's failure to get the most out of his key signings. Obviously, some of them have done very well, like Ugo Ekitike and Milos Kerkez recently, but others, quite famously, haven't. I'm thinking of Florian Wirtz, for example, who, if you look at his numbers at Bayer Leverkusen compared to this season, there's been a drop-off in nearly every key metric. I'm also thinking of Alexander Isak, who, if you look at his numbers compared to last season to this season, you can see there's been a drop-off in every key metric.
But he has been injured.
He has, and this touches on something that I think the issues holding back these players are actually quite identifiable and are already being resolved or probably will be resolved. Okay. So in the case of Florian Wirtz, for example, I think it was clear when he arrived in the Premier League, he struggled to adapt to the pace and physicality of it. He took a bit of time to adapt, but also I think Liverpool's fragility defensively held him back too. You'll notice there is a metric here that has gone up. It's Wirtz's pass accuracy this season. I think that's a bad thing because one of the good things about Wirtz at Leverkusen was he had a platform to take risks. Leverkusen were a good team, so if Wirtz lost the ball trying a risky pass, they could win the ball back quickly. At Liverpool, though, that's not really the case because I think I saw earlier in the season Wirtz was taking the same risks and he was losing the ball and he was facing criticism for it, but also whenever Liverpool lost the ball, they generally conceded an attack and conceded a goal. They were very fragile, as I said. So I think if Liverpool just stabilise themselves next season defensively, then Wirtz will have a better platform to try things and more things will come off. Now, in the case of Isak, as you mentioned, two things have held him back this season: injuries and fitness. If he gets a full pre-season next year and stays injury-free, he'll probably be fine.
Yeah, if he has a proper pre-season without going on strike this time.
There is one player, though, that I want to talk about who doesn't really get spoken about with Liverpool's recruitment. It's one that's had a large negative impact on the team. It's Jeremy Frimpong. At Bayer Leverkusen, he's one of their key attacking weapons. This season, in the Premier League, he hasn't scored a goal and he's only got one assist. And I think Arne Slot has totally failed to get anywhere close to the best out of Frimpong. Now, it is worth saying, at Leverkusen, Frimpong played as a wing-back. And I do think this position got the best out of him for a few reasons. The first one was that he was close to the opposition's defensive line, which provided him good access to make runs in behind and balls being played over the top towards him. But he was also in close proximity to other players. So he had a right-sided number 10 near him, he had a central midfielder, and sometimes a centre-back pushing up. And I think this is really important for Frimpong because let's say the opposition are in a low block, Frimpong's on the wing, he has a 10 near him, he could make these quick combinations, playing these 1-2s, quickly accelerate in behind and receive the pass and put a ball into the box. Now, at Liverpool, Frimpong has not really played as a wing-back, he's generally played as a right-back or a right-winger. And I think neither of these positions come close to recreating the conditions the position of wing-back does. Let's start with right-back. One of the first issues straight away is that Frimpong has a much larger distance to travel if he's to support attacks. But he's also played a large part of the season at right-back behind Mohamed Salah. And he can be a bit of an awkward player to play around, I think, because while he does like to come inside at times, which provides Frimpong space to overlap, Salah also likes hugging the touchline to receive the ball. And this forces Frimpong inside and into central areas where he's not quite as effective. And it's also worth saying as well, when Frimpong plays as a right back, there's a greater defensive burden placed on him. While Frimpong is very quick, he is not very strong, and this is a huge problem in the Premier League. Opponents have been exploiting it all season, where they'll just play these switch passes towards him, and Frimpong will just get bullied physically, and it allows opponents to quickly launch attacks. So based off that, you might expect me to say that right wing is the home for Frimpong in the future, and that's where Slot should play him. It's where he's been playing him recently. But I think you could actually argue this is an even worse position for Frimpong and for Liverpool as a team.
Oh, really?
Now, the thing you have to know about Frimpong is while he is very quick, he's not necessarily a fantastic dribbler. He hasn't really got much of a left foot. He's not going to cut inside and take shots. What he wants to do in wide areas is largely beat defenders just for pace and hit the byline, put crosses in or cutbacks, or sometimes drive in and take a shot himself. Now, this is quite predictable, but I think it was mitigated at Leverkusen because he had players around him to combine with. But at Liverpool, from watching him, I've noticed he's nearly completely isolated whenever he receives the ball on the right-hand side. If Wirtz is playing as the number 10, he's the only 10 on the pitch, and he's got a bit of a bias towards the left-hand side. The striker tends to stay quite central, the other midfielders are a bit slower to support. So Frimpong often receives the ball in these sorts of situations where he's got two options basically, either pass the ball backwards or try and take the defender on, blast past him on the outside and put a cross in. But because he's so predictable, defenders know this, so they can defend against him a lot better. Now, it is worth saying that Mohamed Salah is leaving Liverpool this summer, so it does give the club a chance to retune their right-hand side. But at some point, Arne Slot is going to have to come up with a tactical solution to get the most out of Frimpong while still getting the most out of his other players. And the question really is, when we're talking about Liverpool potentially challenging for the Premier League title, is if you back Arne Slot to find this tactical solution, or if there's someone better place to find it. And there probably is. Xabi Alonso.
Yeah, I mean, also Xabi Alonso's worked with Frimpong and Wirtz at Leverkusen, so that could be fascinating.
Exactly. I think that's why my personal opinion, if Liverpool want to challenge for the title next season, the ruthless yet sensible thing to do is just to bring Alonso in. Because as you said, he's already proven he can get the best out of Wirtz and Frimpong at Bayer Leverkusen, and Slot has been trying to do so all season and just not really found the solution. So if Liverpool want to win the title, I just think they need to bring Alonso in.
Harsh, Alex. Very harsh, but you might be right. Anyway, lastly, we need to talk about Manchester United. Back in the Champions League, Carrick at the wheel. Now, the thing is, we've seen many teams balance European football and Premier League football and find it quite difficult. Can they do it?
Well, remember when I said Arsenal will be the favourites? Forget everything I said about Mikel Arteta. Because since Michael Carrick has been in charge of Manchester United on an interim basis, he has had them top of the league, so they are the best team by 4 points clear of Man City.
The form league, yeah, they are top, aren't they?
So obviously what he's doing is working very well. But what is working very well at Man United? I've prepared I haven't done a SWOT analysis this time. What I do have is for the eagle-eyed amongst you, you may have noticed something.
Same slide as last time.
This is the same slide.
Opening goals.
Man United score a lot of their goals from set pieces, and 10 of their goals, of their opening goals, have come from set pieces. So like a lot of the time this season, they've had to use players like Casemiro and like Harry Maguire, like smashing the ball in from that. That's one of the things they've had to do. But they have scored exactly the same amount of goals that are game state changing this season, you know, with and without Michael Carrick, from set pieces. The other coaching staff there have also broken down that you can make sure that set pieces are your main source of goals, or one really important part of goals, and everything else can open up. Because no matter how good you are, what happens with teams now is that everyone is so good at defending, everyone is so good at pressing, that you need repeatable ways to score. And so that's what they're kind of finding. Like, so Man United have Bruno Fernandes, you can get him to ping the ball about, but if everyone's crushed in, how do you score? On the counter-attack, you can't if everyone's not going to let you do that. So this is what you have. And so I think what United will need to do, obviously all teams, is do very good business in the summer window, but as we know, Carrick is doing very well. And maybe he could be their Mikel Arteta, because Arteta, his system works. Let me tell you what the Arteta system is.
Please tell me.
Well, first of all, he adapted to the players. He came in, he shifted them to like a back three, if you remember. That's exactly what you need to do. And it worked very well. He won the FA Cup. Then he rebuilt the mentality. He started to make them winners and got rid of some of the people in the dressing room he didn't want very much.
Aubameyang, Ozil, I remember those days.
That's correct. Then he started teaching the philosophy. The way to play Arteta ball.
Okay.
And set pieces. Then he eliminated freedom almost entirely. Do what he says, and therefore you will win games. And that's what's happened. So every single phase is perfect. No one does anything too special. If you do, you get substituted off. And trust the process. Very important.
Yes.
Because then you will achieve success. This is the Arteta system. Man United have Michael Carrick. Yeah. Can he be their Arteta? he has a system too. C, he calms things down.
Oh, very nice.
Very important. Do you remember how noisy it was before?
It was.
Yes. A, he applied logic. 4-2-3-1. Put Bruno Fernandes near the striker. That's what you do. R, he recognised their strengths. 4-2-3-1. Play Bruno Fernandes near the striker. Let him create. Get set pieces. Like, have things organised. Make them confident. That's what your strengths are. R, release the Bruno Fernandes. Really important. I, integrated new ideas. This is what he will do. I don't think this is what Carrick's team is meant to be like. He's adapted them, just like the Arteta system, and I think he'll integrate new things over the summer, depending on the players he gets in, because your tactics will depend on the players that you have. You play in a certain way because you have Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes and Kobbie Mainoo. You'll play a different way when you have Elliot Anderson.
Not Ugarte.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Right, so this is what you get. C, capitalise on momentum. This is Manchester United Football Club. Once you start winning, you keep winning, and that's what you do, and you drive it that way, because the Michael Carrick system really revolves around keep on trucking. And eventually you will get back to the top of the success tree. And so can Man United win the Premier League? That's what you asked me, I think. Yes, maybe. But I think, like you said, with having the extra European games and having a bit of a new squad, maybe it's just a bit too soon.
Yeah, it is a gamble to keep with Carrick, but it feels like a gamble slightly better than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I don't know. Do you
I think that is outrageous. Love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but the Carrick system does work.
Thank you, guys. I feel very inspired. But the big question now is, who will win the Premier League this season?
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Amy Lawrence, and James Horncastle. With the latest transfer news and insights on every Premier League story that matters, theathletic.com puts you inside football